There is a thermostat in your house, and it does not care what the weather is outside. It does not care how cold it got last night or how warm it might get this afternoon. It only knows one thing, the temperature it has been set to. And no matter what the world does, it will fight to keep the room at that temperature. It will turn the heat on or cut the cooling or do whatever it needs to do, because that is its setting.
Okay, I feel like we're not really talking about a thermostat.
Maxwell Maltz spent 20 years as a plastic surgeon, fixing faces, removing scars, reshaping noses. He was exceptional at it. And he noticed something that disturbed him deeply. Some patients, after the surgery, their whole life changed. New confidence, new relationships, new possibilities. And others, nothing changed. The face was different. They were not. As if something inside them had not gotten the memo.
Because the thermostat wasn't touched.
Because the thermostat wasn't touched. And that realization sent Maltz from the operating room into the mind, and what he found there changed everything.
Y'all, buckle up. Welcome to Discourse, where we have a friendly chat about important stuff. I'm Andre.
And I'm Chloe. And today's book is one of the oldest books we've covered on this show, published in 1960, and one of the most quietly influential. Psycho-Cybernetics by Dr. Maxwell Maltz has sold over 30 million copies. It shaped the thinking of athletes, executives, therapists, and coaches for 6 decades. And most people have never heard of it.
Because the people who actually use this stuff, they ain't always advertising it. This is the book behind the book, the thing underneath the self-help shelf. Let's get into it.
So the central concept of psycho-cybernetics is the self-image, and Maltz's definition is precise. The self-image is not how you'd like to see yourself or how others see you. It is the deeply held, largely unconscious picture you have of who you actually are, what you deserve, what you're capable of, what is appropriate for someone like you. And here is the critical thing. Your brain, your nervous system, your entire goal-seeking mechanism is engineered to keep you consistent with that picture, not your potential, that picture.
And Maltz got this salesperson. Man earns exactly $5,000 a year, every year, regardless of his territory, regardless of the economy, regardless of anything. Good territory, he coasts. Bad territory, he grinds. And he always lands at 5,000.
Because 5,000 is who he is, in his own internal blueprint. It is not a goal, it is a self-conception, and the mechanism doesn't care whether that conception was formed by one careless comment from a parent when he was 9 or one bad year that taught him a lie about himself. It runs on whatever is programmed, and it runs faithfully.
Maltz calls it the snapback effect. You push yourself through willpower, through discipline, through gritted teeth past your internal setting, and for a while it works, and then, snap, you snap back. The diet fails, the new habit dissolves, the confidence evaporates, and you think something is wrong with you, but nothing is wrong with you. The thermostat just corrected.
And this is where Maltz becomes genuinely radical, because most self-help says, try harder, discipline yourself more, build better habits. Maltz says, none of that matters until you change the setting. You can't out-discipline a thermostat, you have to reprogram it. And the tool for doing that is
Imagination.
Imagination, which sounds, I'll admit, slightly suspicious at first.
Right? Like, that's it? Just imagine being better? That's the advice?
Except there's neuroscience behind it, and it is extraordinary.
Maltz makes a claim that sounds like it should be false.
Indeed, he says the human nervous system cannot distinguish between a real experience and one that is vividly, repeatedly, and emotionally imagined. To your brain, the simulation is the experience. And therefore, if you rehearse something vividly and consistently in your mind, your nervous system responds as though it has actually done the thing.
Now, my first reaction to that is exactly what yours probably is. Come on now. But then he drops the basketball study, and I had to I had to sit down with that one.
It is remarkable. Researchers took 3 groups of students. Group 1 practiced basketball free throws physically for 20 days. Group 2 did nothing at all. Group 3 practiced entirely in their imagination. No gym, no ball, no court. Just mental rehearsal. 20 days of sitting still and picturing themselves shooting perfectly.
And at the end of 20 days, Group 1 improved by 24%. Group 2, 0 improvement. Group 3, 23%.
23% improvement without touching a basketball. That is not a motivational anecdote, that is a data point. And it means the boundary between rehearsal and reality, in terms of how the brain wires itself, is thinner than anyone had imagined.
And then, Chloe, he talks about Arthur Schnabel, one of the greatest concert pianists of the 20th century. And Schnabel had this thing. He would not touch a new piece on the keyboard until he had played it completely in his mind. Full composition, every note, every dynamic, every breath, in his head, first. Because he understood something Maltz is now naming. You practice the mind first. The body just carries out the order.
Maltz calls it the theater of the mind. You construct a mental cinema. You go in, you cast yourself as a capable, successful version of who you want to become, and you play the film, specifically, vividly, emotionally, every day, until your nervous system begins to accept it as reference experience, as evidence of who you are.
Not affirmations, not vague positivity, not I am worthy. Specific scenes, specific feelings, the handshake that went well, the presentation that landed, the conversation you nailed. You run it again, you install it.
You are reprogramming the thermostat from the inside.
Now, here's where it gets personal, because Maltz is a surgeon, right? And he starts asking, what about the people who got great surgery but still couldn't change? What was holding them back? And what he found was emotional scar tissue, old wounds that had healed wrong, hardened, into something that was supposed to protect them, but was actually cutting them off from life.
He tells the story of George, a young attorney whose face had been scarred in an accident. George had become a recluse, hostile, isolated. He believed even his wife flinched when he came close. Maltz operated, restored his face, and that part, as miraculous as it was almost beside the point. The real transformation happened when George's inner picture of himself shifted, when he began to see himself as a full member of the human race again, not a scarred man tolerated by others, a person.
And the thing Maltz says caused that shift was forgiveness. And not the kind people usually mean, not I'm over it, not I've moved on. Maltz describes true forgiveness as the complete cancellation of a debt. Like you don't just lock the note in a drawer, you burn it, so it can never be brought out again against anyone, including yourself.
Because so much of our scar tissue, Maltz argues, is not from what others did to us. It is from what we keep doing to ourselves in the retelling. Every time we replay the humiliation, the rejection, the failure, we re-injure ourselves. The original wound may have healed years ago, but we've been picking at it ever since, and it never closes.
He's got this image, the scaredy cat, like you got a cat. Cat jumped on a hot burner, got burned. And from that day forward, that cat will not go near the entire kitchen. Won't go near the stove that didn't burn it, won't go near the counter, won't go near the refrigerator. The cat generalized the pain, and now the whole room is dangerous.
And we do exactly that. One person betrays us and we close off to vulnerability altogether. One public embarrassment and we stop raising our hand. One failure and we decide at some deep, unnamed level that we are not someone who succeeds at that kind of thing. The generalization becomes the self-image, and the self-image becomes the thermostat.
So the question ain't just, what happened to you? The question is, what did you decide it meant about you?
That is precisely the right question.
Real quick, we've been talking about how the brain builds itself through repeated experience, how what you consistently expose yourself to becomes reference material for who you are. Well, every week you show up to Discourse, that's a vote.
a piece of reference experience that says, I'm someone who invests in their mind. I'm someone who wants to understand people and ideas and the world better. Subscribe, turn on the bell, make it part of how you program yourself. Maltz would approve. Back to the book.
Genuinely the most on-brand segue we've ever done.
I contain multitudes, Chloe. I contain multitudes.
The third major concept Maltz introduces is what he calls dehypnotization. And the premise is this: most of the limitations we carry are not ours. They were installed by other people. Teachers, parents, a comment someone made when you were 12 that you have never consciously examined since.
He's got this student told by a teacher he was dumb at maths, and the boy believed it, built his whole academic identity around it. Until one day, in a fit of pure indignation, he walks up to the blackboard and solves a complex problem in front of the class. And it hits him. The belief was a lie, not a limitation, not a reality, a lie that a person in authority had told him, and he had chosen to believe.
Maltz says we are all, to varying degrees, hypnotized, walking around in a trance shaped by other people's evaluations of us. And the moment of dehypnotization, the moment the spell breaks, is often exactly what happened to that boy. Not gentle affirmation, a moment of direct contradiction, where the lived experience is so undeniably different from the belief that the belief simply cannot hold.
Which connects to something Maltz says about stress and burnout that I think is wildly underrated. He says a huge amount of our daily anxiety, the overwhelm, the mental static, comes from trying to consciously micromanage a mechanism that works best when you leave it alone. You ever try to remember a name? Like, the harder you try, the further it goes. And then 2 hours later, when you're doing something completely different, there it is.
Because the conscious mind stepped back, and the servo mechanism, the deep, automatic, goal-seeking part of your brain, could work. Maltz's prescription for stress is not to push harder, it is to trust the machine you've correctly programmed and then release it. Set the goal, prime the imagination, and then get out of the way.
And he's got this beautiful image, the law of the hourglass. An hourglass can only pass 1 grain of sand at a time. No matter how hard you shake it, no matter how anxious you are about the sand, 1 grain at a time. And a human being, he says, can only genuinely deal with one thing at a time. The stress of 5 problems at once is not the stress of 5 problems. It is the stress of 1 problem plus the stress of insisting on worrying about the other 4 simultaneously.
You cannot live 5 minutes at once. You can only live this one.
You cannot live 5 minutes at once. I'm gonna need a second with that.
Maltz concludes the book by defining what he calls the success-type personality, and he builds it into an acronym, SUCCESS. Sense of direction, understanding, courage, charity, esteem, self-confidence, and self-acceptance. And I want to flag something. This list is not a checklist. Maltz is not saying become all these things and you'll succeed. He's saying these are the natural expressions of a person who has correctly aligned their self-image with their true potential. They're the fruit, not the method.
And he's got this story, a speaker, famous, 73 years old, feeling done. That slow drift that happens when you stop having something to aim at. And he sets a new goal. Wild, specific, joyful goal. Play golf in every single state in America. And Maltz says the man became alive again, his health improved, his career surged. Not because golf is magic, because the gold gave him somewhere to point.
And this is Maltz's most important distinction. Retirement from a job, he says, is safe. Retirement from life, from goals, from challenge, from the forward motion of becoming, is fatal. Not metaphorically, literally. The research on longevity is unambiguous. People with clear purpose live longer, recover from illness faster, and report higher life satisfaction at every age.
Because we're built to aim at something. That's not philosophy, that's the engineering Maltz is describing. Goals driving is the fuel. The servo mechanism needs a target. Without a target, it don't fire. And when it don't fire, something in us goes quiet in a way that ain't peaceful.
And he ends, and this is the line I keep coming back to, with what he calls nostalgia for the future.
Not nostalgia for what was, longing, that warm, magnetic, visceral pull toward what has not yet happened. The idea that your best self is not behind you, it is ahead of you, always, if you will simply point the mechanism toward it.
Nostalgia for the future. That's one of the most beautiful phrases I've ever heard applied to how a person should live.
So let's land. What Maxwell Maltz is handing you, beneath all the science and the stories, is a shift in where you look for the problem and the solution. Every time you have tried to change something in your life and failed, the instinct is to look outward. Wrong strategy, wrong environment, wrong people, wrong timing. Maltz says, look inward. Find the thermostat, find the setting, and change the picture.
Because here's the thing he says that I want to end on, and this is the piece that undoes people in the best way. He says success is not something you do. It is something you let happen by correctly programming the mechanism that already lives inside you. You ain't broken, you ain't lazy, you ain't unlucky. You are a guidance system that has been aimed at the wrong target. And you can change the target right now, today, with nothing more than a decision and a picture and the discipline to keep playing that film.
So here is our question for you today, and this one is genuinely worth sitting with, not just scrolling past. What is the thermostat setting you are running on right now? Not what you want, not what you're capable of. What does that deep, unconscious picture of yourself actually say you deserve? What does it say you're the kind of person to do or have or become? And is that picture true? Or is it just the temperature someone else set?
Drop that in the comments, seriously, because the act of naming it, of pulling it out of the unconscious and looking at it in the light, that is the beginning of the reprogramming. And somebody reading your comment might recognize their own setting in it. That's how this works. We help each other see the thing we can't see in ourselves.
And if today cracked something open for you, share it, because there is someone you know who is working incredibly hard and still snapping back to the same place, who is grinding and wondering why nothing sticks. They don't need more discipline. They need a new picture. Send them this episode. That might be the most useful thing you do for them this year.
Psycho-Cybernetics, Dr. Maxwell Maltz. 60-year-old book. Not a single page of it is aged.
Not one.
I'm Andre.
I'm Chloe.
And this is Discourse.
Stay curious, keep aiming, and we'll see you next time.